Hello, Deanna Cluth here. I am feeling the seasonal allergies and this sense of um, fullness in my sinuses and my face. Um, when I was speaking of it with my own therapist, um, was reflected back to me as the forward facing uh, somatic communication aspects of the relationship between I and thou. And it makes so much sense too that I'm feeling particularly um, this inflammation in my sinuses after a week of travel and going to visit my father and stepmother and help them with researching memory care facilities for the future, but imminent, and needing to be forward facing and communicating, and also um, be able to be rooted and grounded in my um, authority rather than in my inner child self, who would maybe be very upset to see some of these people at the end of the trajectory of life with Alzheimer's, and imagining my father in that position. And so this process that I'm in now is stirring up some very interesting, um, not only observations, but beautiful integrations with connecting to uh, these inner children and the layers and layers and layers of these aspects of myself that I continually meet over the years, um, at different spirals of my healing journey, and different layers of my ability to feel and integrate um, things that I had felt were too painful and necessarily pushed down and avoided, and for many years numbed, um, and to avoid the pain, an existential pain, really painful um, sensation of uh, whether it's not belonging or feeling unworthy or um, unloved, right? All of these yearnings for secure attachment, and in the primary care relationships as a child that you may have experienced, and I certainly did, come up in relationship, come up in experience, and come up as we are able to tolerate those thresholds of um, suffering, if you want to call it that. And it can be critical trauma, and it could also be very nuanced um, pain, nuanced existential pain. Um, in other words, not associated with any trauma with a capital T, or really a brutality of experience, but a more subtle one of feeling abandoned and disengaged and disconnected from being seen, witnessed, heard, accepted, loved unconditionally. And all these kinds of nuanced experiences can wreak havoc on a life and can cause tremendous um, angst and or anxiety or neuroses, it, manifesting in a multitude of ways depending on the unique individual character and life experience and people around you. So I suffered from tremendous trauma over the years, as well as this kind of nuanced experience. And then beyond that, those critical, post traumatic stress years, there's been a lot of recapitulation of um, relationships and trauma and experiential connection with the parts of self that experienced such um, unbearable amount of grief and loss. And in the healing, I've come to a place where I have many blessings, many beautiful relationships, so much more peace in my life and in my heart and relationships than than I had in the first 3 decades of my life. And yet, when faced with this critical juncture, and um, this is a very convoluted juncture, right? Because we also have eclipse season, and uh, yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, and that is causing me to feel strong emotions and instability. And I mean, we even had a rare and unusual earthquake here in New Jersey, all this sense of destabilization. And then facing the prospect of my own mortality as I face my father's, it has stirred up a lot. And so it makes so much sense that one of the deepest layers of my protected self, um, who is now able to, and I celebrate her, hooray, is now able to be seen to emerge, from the deepest place of my um, protective uh, withholding of um, presence, yeah, hiding to protect that part. She's surfacing and she's telling me, oh my goodness, this feels really painful to me. And it makes me feel um, very sad. And I was feeling very um, concerned and a little distraught and depressed that here I was again with this um, sense of feeling inadequate and in such a poignant, nuanced way, and feeling like I wanted to hide, right? Doing my books, my collaborative books recently in the past 4 years has gotten me out of hiding into a more public, forward facing, right? Again, with this somatic interface, forward facing relationship in the public eye and on social media. I've been sharing more and more, and in my writing. And so when this part of myself surfaced now, I thought, "Oh my goodness, I thought I worked through a lot of this already." And I have. But healing happens in cycles and spirals, just as nature does, just as our cosmic universe moves forward. We are in the same rhythms. Our body is interstellar stardust, it is the earth, it is all the elements. And why wouldn't it be also rhythmically affected in these certain spiraling waves of descent into depth of knowing and feeling and unearthing and resurrection and rebirth and expansion and contraction and expansion and contraction and expansion. This is the pulse of life, spanda. and the rhythmic cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And this resurrection aspect is so much a part of healing work, of somatic work, of inner child work, and shadow work. This reclamation of um, power, of nuances of power that have been squirreled away, and that also are used, that energy, that power that is used to contain and fortify those squirreled away places of hiding and protection, takes a lot of energy. And so, right, the depression, the the hurt, the layers of eruption of anger and collapse of depression, depending on what cycle you're in or how your defenses are and how they're expressed. These can all be varying manifestations of protective, um, self protective childhood defenses, protecting ourselves from trauma, from pain, from existential, suffering, of that annihilation of that deep gaping abyss of feeling disconnected from the community of our family that is there to protect us, that we rely upon so desperately as an infant. So my invitation to you and my encouragement in sharing this about myself is that not only does it get easier, that even when there are moments where it seems like the same thing all over again and it feels really painful again, that even then it's progress and there's a beauty in the ability to witness and show up and turn toward with love and compassion, right? I say this to my clients all the time, and I needed my own therapist to mirror it back to me last night when um, she reminded me that turning away, right? This, like, when will this uh, pain end? When will I find relief from that particular thing? And that is a moving away from that acceptance. It's a moving away from that part. Who then, if I continue in that way to just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna cover this up and get over it and move on and not deal with it and just put on my best forward facing, you know, mask," then I am shunning that part of myself and perpetuating the abuse of oppression, of uh, annihilation of self, right? I am self perpetuating that. So, this is an invitation to look close, to move close to those parts that are in pain, the parts that you've historically numbed with drugs or alcohol, all of this addiction or sugar is a building up of a boundary to separate from painful feelings and experiences. So, as we slowly build our tolerance, more and more of those experiences are going to surface and they're coming up for healing. They're coming up for healing and um, integration. So, do this with me now. Just a gentle guided meditation. Take a deep breath. Just notice where you're at in your body and place your hands on your heart. If you want, you can also place a hand on your womb. And for many years, I have worked to pull back projections, clearing my heart to love unconditionally. And so, all of this outward energy that you sense, just allow that to pull back toward your heart. So then now you can examine your own heart toward yourself and just pull back all those projections of any judgments. And if you can't, just notice them with compassion, with understanding, inner standing, and love. And take a deep breath and exhale anything that's ready to be dislodged, any attachments that become apparent. Just open your heart to be grateful for the awareness. This is connection. Be grateful for the connection. And that's what I want to share with you, that I am grateful for the connection. As hard as it was yesterday to feel into that pain, it was also so beautiful to celebrate the ability to connect with yet another part of self and feel empowered with that union. This is the sacred union that I always talk about, the sacred union within of all these elements and parts of self. So I celebrate you and your journey and all the parts of you. I send love, unconditional love, to each and every one.